Hi everyone, it's Miss Jenkinson. So this week you're looking at data in maths, and I'm going to show you how you can do a line graph just on normal lined paper rather than squared paper, because if you don't have it at home, I don't want you to panic and think you can't do the activity, because there are ways around it. So you will need a ruler, a pencil and just your normal book that you've been doing your work in, and you'll be able to do this activity. So let's have a look together. So here we've got a table that's showing us some data. So we've got the days and we've got rainfall in centimetres. So you've got 5 days and 5 measurements there as well, and they are given as decimals. So this has been given to 1 decimal place, these answers. Okay, so we're going to plot this as a line graph on a piece of lined paper. So this ruler that I've got access to has got inches and it's got centimetres on, and you can see here on my piece of lined paper, all I've done is I've turned it to the side and I've used the inches, and I've gone half an inch per 0.5, so I'm working in that decimal of 0.5 intervals. So I've done half an inch for each one, and I've just marked where they are. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use my ruler again just to make sure my line's nice and straight. I'm going to go across here and I'm going to do 3 lines as being then day 1, another 3 lines then mark day 2, so it's nice and spaced out and it all looks really nice and presentable. So I'm going to do that and then I will come back on and show you what that looks like. So here we have the x-axis as well. Okay, you can see those slight marks there. Now what my next step is to do is I need to label up my x and my y-axis so it's really clear. So I'm going to have my days. I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And then I'm going to have 0, 0.51, 1.52, 2.53, 3.5. And I'm going to stop at 3.5 because that's my greatest measurement, but you could extend it up further if you needed to. And I'm also going to label my axes so it's really clear as to what my graph is showing. So here is my labelled graph, okay, and I've started to input my data now as well. So I've done day 1 already, so I've gone to day 1, it was 3.5, so I've gone up to where 3.5 is and I've marked that with an X, okay. I'm going to do the same for day 2. Day 2 was 1.7, so I need to go up past 1.5, and it's almost halfway between 1.5 and 2, because halfway would be 1.75, so I'm going to go just below that and mark that with an X. I'm then going to go to day 3 and plot that one at 0.8. Day 4 and day 5 are both 0.5, so I'm going to plot those and then I will show you what it looks like. One thing I did want to show you as well is I've just got to plot in day 4 and 5, which is 0.5, and I'm working on lined paper. So what I've done is I've got my ruler and I've lined up to where 0.5 is, and then I'm going to go along and just place a small dot at both of those points, and then I can do them as an X once I've removed this ruler out of the way. But it just makes sure you're getting 100% accuracy then, which is really important. So here is my plotted line graph. So all of my points are now plotted for all 5 days of the information that I have. So the next step is to use the ruler. You're going to join all of these points together, okay, working in order, so going from day 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and so on. And it's important I always try and go through the middle of the X. Sometimes they might do it more freehand, so they'll just try and spot the trend as such, so they'll do it more freehand, but for the sake of this I am going to use my ruler. So here is the completed line graph from using the information from the table at the start, okay. So I've just taken it step by step, I've made sure I've used my ruler at all times, and I've just kept it nice and neat. Now you might then get asked questions from a line graph like this, okay, and you wouldn't always be presented with the table of data as well. If you had a question, they might just present you with this part, okay, which is why it's really important, like Mr. Woolley has explained on the notebooks, that you are using your ruler and then using that to help you draw straight lines across to read the measurements. Okay, so you might be asked things like which day had the most rainfall, and you can tell that just as a visual by looking, because it's the highest point, so then you could read down and see it was day 1. They might ask you things like what is the difference between the day with the most rainfall and the day with the least. So you'd be looking at what's the measurement here and reading across, so 3.5, and you could use your ruler and draw that line straight across. And then the day with the least, you'd be looking at day 4 and 5 because they're the same. And again, you could use your ruler and read across and see that that's 0.5. For the difference, that means a subtraction. So 3.5 take away 0.5, you would know that the difference in rainfall is 3 centimetres. You might be asked things as well like, what do you predict is going to happen in the future from this data? Because we can see that the rainfall is actually coming downwards, it's decreasing. So you would predict that the rainfall is going to continue to decrease, okay, rather than then seeing it spike back up again, just from what you've been presented with. You might be asked things like roughly how much rainfall was there on day 3. So that is one where you would need to use that ruler, because it's not going to land at one of these intervals directly, and they would have some leeway in that prediction, that estimate. So it is really important that you use the skills that you've been shown. So I hope you found this really useful. If you do need any further help, then don't hesitate to contact me or Mr. Woolley. But a ruler and a pencil are definitely going to be needed this week if there's any elements where it is having to present your own data, okay? And also, one other thing to be mindful of is when you are looking at pictograms later on this week, if, for example, there is a picture of a cat and that then represents 2 children voting for a cat, if there is half a cat, remember that will be half the amount of 2 children, so that will be the vote of 1 child, okay? So don't get caught out by that either, just think really carefully about all the information you're being presented with. But have a great week, you're all doing amazing, and keep up the hard work.